Hello, all you beautiful people in Webtown. Welcome back to Crypto Comics. It is a pleasure to talk to you again about comic books. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about Shadowhawk today. If you have not read the original Shadowhawk miniseries from the early 90s, you're going to want to do that before you watch this video. You're going to want to go to your local comic shop. You're going to want to dive into the back issue bins and start swimming through there, swimming through the S's, swimming until you find Shadowhawk. The guy behind the counter is undoubtedly going to be able to help you. It is going to be worth whatever price they want you to pay. Whether it's 50 cents an issue, $2 an issue, $3 an issue, buy it. Shadowhawk Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, the mini-series. They later became ongoing series. This is from the mini-series. This is Shadowhawk Volume 1, Number 3. It's glow-in-the-dark cover, baby. Glow-in-the-dark. This is a Shadowhawk one-shot that's set up for a new ongoing series that they did. I've previously reviewed this. You can watch that video. I really enjoyed this. I really liked this a lot. It made me want to get into this Shadowhawk series. I think that this would be officially called Volume 2. Ongoing series Volume 2. Not mini-series Volume 2. Different things. There's a lot of Shadowhawk. You're going to want to go to, comicvine.com and look at these things, or mycomicshop.com, and make sure you're picking up solid issues. This was a solid issue. Now I want to talk about what I read today. He's Taking Back the Night. Shadowhawk, first issue, cover by Eric Larson. This was very hastily drawn, Eric. This is from May 2010. This is Shadowhawk Ongoing Series Volume 3. And I was super excited when I found this because I didn't know this existed. I just happened to see it in the local comic shop, and I said, hey, look at that, Shadowhawk. One that I've never even read. So I popped it open, and I was like, this is new. This is brand new. This has 2 tales to tingle your senses. Shadowhawk Resurrection, see Volume 3, Number 1. So this is the Shadowhawk Resurrection series, essentially. Dan Wickline is the author. Tony Rodriguez is the artist. And then there's a backup story called Heads or Tails, written by Steve Niles and penciled by Shadowhawk creator Jim Valentino. Jim did all of the pencils and the story on the original Shadowhawk miniseries that I've highly recommended time and again here. Basically, it just starts outside this church. There's been a serial killer called the Chalk Outline Killer who has been murdering prominent figures of the town for the last few months. And Shadowhawk is watching the service. Is he there to pay tribute to the man, or is he simply there searching for the serial killer? All of a sudden, this guy with the bullseye face shows up, and he's wrapped in bombs, and he literally just blows himself up. Total act of terrorism right here. And Shadowhawk, is going to rush into the scene because he's very brave. And you can see a lot of action, not a lot of dialogue. I actually prefer that. I consider that to be a strong writer. This is Captain Neves. He's been a character in the series for a while. He knows Shadowhawk's secret identity, the original Shadowhawk, Paul Johnstone, who, spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, I'm about to spoil some stuff. Paul Johnstone died of complications from HIV. He had AIDS. It was injected. I don't want to spoil it too much. Go read it. Go read it. It's good. This, however, not so much. The art is good. The story's not terrible. This fellow by the name of Killswitch shows up. And he wants a piece of Shadowhawk. He doesn't have anything to do with the bomb. He just saw Shadowhawk on the television and decided to come down here and get his revenge for something. And so they get in this big fight. And it, rip-roaring battle. And none of this is really setting up a whole new series. It's just a big fight, a big action sequence, and that's fine. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but maybe save it for issue 2? Maybe explain to me what the heck's going on here first. Which Shadowhawk is this? Is it Eddie from the Shadowhawk one-shot? It's not. And you're just like, see, here's the thing is, Eddie had the Shadowhawk one-shot, and this basically set up the new Shadowhawk series, which would have been what we would call Shadowhawk Ongoing Series Volume 2. And Eddie was, a high school teenager who came into possession of the Shadowhawk helmet, and it gave him the powers of the Shadowhawk, and blah, 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 blah. Really fun story. Really good. This is not that Eddie. This is not that Shadowhawk. And so we're just seeing action. Lots of action. And finally, he takes the guy down. The art is well drawn, but it wasn't laid out very well. Like, he takes this manhole cover off. Are you completely insane? Insane? You crippled me. I crippled you. That's what this is all about? That's a weird line. And all of a sudden, there's like just water shooting up from the ground, but this is broken here. This is a manhole cover flat to the ground. You're just like, what the hell is going on here? So apparently it's a fire hydrant that had gotten broken at some point, or Shadowhawk broke it, and now he's deflecting the water using the manhole cover. Oh, excuse me, person hole cover. Succumb to the patriarchy there almost. And he blasts him with this water, and that electrocutes him, I guess, because his suit's electrified. And he stops him. And then it's revealed that it was Sean Dumas, who's in Shadowhawk's first series. He breaks this criminal's back, and this criminal now, here, a decade later, is back for revenge. I was crippled, but I got this suit that allows me to run and fight and do all the awesome stuff, the Iron Man can do. And Neve shows up, and he's just like, it is you, isn't it? He was one of your first. Instead of collecting evidence and turning him over to the cops, you snapped his spinal column. The kid had no record. He sued the city for not keeping him safe from a masked vigilante, and he won millions. I see now how he spent it. So this is like cool. This is a cool villain. This is a way to, really draw back into Shadowhawk's past and bring it into modern times. And Shadowhawk runs, and, Neves, he's going to run, but Neves tells him, the kid who replaced you was different. He had hope. He was young, but you could believe in him. So the question is, are you going to be the vigilante backbreaker of a decade ago, or the hero that these people were just starting to embrace? And I'm confused because I don't know what happened to Eddie, which means I got to go back and get Shadowhawk Ongoing Series Volume 2 to find out what happened. But as if that's not confusing enough, Shadowhawk is Paul Johnstone. He died from AIDS, and now he's resurrected and alive. And it's just like, what? How? And then he says this really weird line. How much of me is Paul, and how much is James Collins? Or am I only Shadowhawk now? And what does it even mean to be Shadowhawk anymore? I don't know, Paul. I don't understand. What did Eddie, what did his dad, James, have to do with this? Could you be too? His dad was like a big fat white guy, and you're like a buff, studly black dude. I don't understand what's happening in this comic, and it hasn't been set up well enough for me to care what's happening in this comic book at all. And so he just goes to bed in his old burnout apartment that he had a decade ago that's vacant. And then some criminals come in to get him, I guess. And then you cut to this story by Steve Niles and penciled by Jim Valentino. And this is just like another story like the first one, where it's Shadowhawk in action, fighting bad guys, ends quick. Oh, to be continued, but we don't actually care because we have no idea what's going on with Paul Johnstone. And it's not set up to make us wonder enough. Like, you spent all of this story in this huge fight with a guy from Shadowhawk's past. It seems like this was rather abrupt. You could have drugged this guy's story out for 3 or 4 issues and told something really interesting rather than trying to cram it all into just this issue number 1. And then you don't even give us enough of Paul Johnstone to really make this make any sense at all. At all. So for me, And then, you get a preview of Lady Robotica, which is not drawn well, in my opinion. Shadowhawk Resurrection, number 2. The pulse-pending return of the original Shadowhawk continues. A masked suicide bomber took out a crowded church while the TV cameras rolled. So how is he now standing in the middle of the hottest nightclub event in the city? Meanwhile, Blacklight wants to know why our best friend is in a coma, and why someone else is wearing his costume. If that wasn't enough for our hero, enter Crimson, coming in June. I'm almost tempted to buy issue 2, just to see what they're actually trying to accomplish here. But I have a feeling it's not going to draw me in anymore. If they couldn't do it with issue 1, I don't know what issue 2 is going to do. And I can't believe that a guy like Jim Valentino did not realize that this is not enough. All these pretty pictures, all this great art, which it is, it's solid. This isn't enough just because I love this character. This isn't enough. Go back, watch this instead. Watch this video and tell me what you think between these 2 comics. Which one draws you in more? This was absolutely excellent comic book. This was excellent. It has great plot. Look at this plot. Look at that exposition. It's got this father-son relationship in it. Struggles of a teenage boy. Everybody likes that. Man, that's like Spider-Man if he was Shadowhawk. And then they bring Paul Johnstone back, which is fascinating. How did he rise from the dead? Well, how come you're not explaining that? How come this doesn't open like Friday the 13th Part 5, where Paul Johnstone digs his way out of his grave? It just, he's already got the Shadowhawk suit? How? How come it doesn't say in the beginning, you better go read Shadowhawk Volume 2, or you're going to be completely clueless in Shadowhawk Volume 3? It doesn't, though. And this is why this comic fails. And this cover by Eric Larson isn't doing it any favors. This is cheap art, cheap, shoddy art. And I'm disappointed. But if I can find Shadowhawk Volume 3, issue number 2, I would probably be willing to buy it just to see if they make any sense out of what's going on here. Because I can't believe that this was allowed to even get to the printers. There needs to be some serious editorial. Kristen Simon. Jim Valentino was in the way. He was not in the way enough. That's what I got to say about Shadowhawk, Volume 3, Issue 1, Shadowhawk's Resurrection. Disappointed. But hey, we'll come back with another comic tomorrow that will not be a disappointment. I can promise you that. Right here on Crypto Comics.
Legends of the Lone Wolf. 80-page full-color anthology. With your support, we will bring you a perfect-bound 80-page book of the highest quality. Everyone involved has donated their time and talent, and all the money will go to printing and shipping before any of the creators turn a profit. Unlike other anthology books, Legends of the Lone Wolf contains a 38-page feature-length supernatural story. That's nearly twice the size of a regular comic book. This campaign is the only way to get the variant-aged edition of Lone Wolf's #1. This highly unique version of our first issue will be printed on a stunning aged newsprint and features a cover by the one and the only Muttman. So don't sit on your hands, Wolfomaniacs. You're gonna have to get out there and grab a copy for yourself. Ooh, yeah!